What's your hard cutoff time if you were to like set it back half an hour?
Oh, who knows? I don't know, but I do know we're live.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Dynasty Diehards. We are one week before Thanksgiving. We're also heading into week 11 of the NFL season. It's time to start making some decisions on your Dynasty rosters, and we have been pounding this on the table for what, Matt? 3 weeks now at this point. Like, you've got to know if you're a contender, you're a pretender, and if you're a pretender, it's time to start that rebuild. Today, we have 4 players that there are a lot of question marks on, and we're going to tell you what we think you should do. Should you be trading for them? Should you be trying to acquire them? Should you be trying to sell them here before your Dynasty trade deadline? Well, Matt, we're a day late. We had some stuff come up and life happens, but that's all right because nothing's really changed in the trade market, especially with the 4 players we're going to talk about today. Before we get into these guys, how are you doing today, man? It's good to see you. I've missed you. I haven't seen you in a week.
I feel like I haven't seen you in a few weeks because we were doing three redraft shows together, and we just those kind of I had to step away from those. I got too much other stuff going on. But this is my favorite show that I do, especially with you. So yeah, welcome back to Dynasty Diehards. Buddy. Yeah,
welcome back to Dynasty Diehards. Yeah, and we've had some weird situations develop in this fantasy football season that players I just don't know what to do about, and that's why I kind of wanted to talk about these guys today. Should you be buying or selling these players? I mean, let's get into it real quick here, Matt. Not real quick. Let's get into it right now. Are we buying or selling Bryce Young? I mean, dude, he has been underperforming to say the least. First overall pick, he's QB 27 right now. QB 14 on the Fantasy Pros Dynasty Expert Consensus rankings. But look, dude, he's looked scattered. He's looked inefficient. And granted, Carolina's offense is bad, but how long are we going to have to wait for Bryce Young to have a good offensive line, to have a set of young wide receivers and a running back that are stable with a Frank Reich offense that actually works?
Because they sold their first round pick next year in the trade to get him at 101 in the NFL draft. They gave away DJ Moore, so he doesn't have that target. They gave away their 2024 first round pick, so he's not going to get one of these stud wide receivers coming out. It's tough, man. I'll tell you, I'm not buying him and I'm not selling him. I'm not selling him because his talent is much better than his situation. And if there's one rule of Dynasty, you buy talent and sell situation, right? Unless you're like contending down the stretch, which is also a fun time to do this right now. But nobody's buying Bryce Young for even a reroll. Let's say the only place that I got him across like 20 leagues, and I love rookie picks, I got him one time at 106 in a 4-point passing touchdown league. Yeah. So that's how little I viewed him to begin with. And in that one league, I can't sell him now because what are you going to get less than what you paid for him? And that's what it comes down to. He's better than his situation, but his situation is not changing either. So I'm not buying him because what are you going to buy?
That's what I'm saying. So, but if you're let's say you're a Bryce Young manager and you're looking at your team, and you're like, everything is really good for this team moving forward, but I've got Bryce Young and I can't afford to just hold him. He's already off of your taxi squad. At that point, do you take what you can get for Bryce Young, or you just hope that maybe his development comes along quicker? Maybe they make some free agency moves that bolster him and help him maybe at least get to, I don't know, a high-end QB2 next season?
Let me ask you this. If you're competing and Bryce Young is your QB2 and you don't have a QB3, or let's say your QB2 and 3 are both kind of shaky. You know, you've got maybe Bryce Young and Minshew, but the rest of your team is just stacked, and you're looking to get a championship, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you trade Bryce Young for like Dobbs plus a second, or like Dobbs Thielen second, or something like that? Like what's a situation? Because I don't like trading players for values or values for players. I like trading situations, especially at this time of year. You know, within the month of the trade deadline, you're looking for situational trades. And in that case, if you're a contender with Bryce Young, what are you selling him for to compete?
I would want Josh Dobbs. I think that's a piece right now. He's hot, but because you can get Dobbs plus.
Definitely
right?
not getting a first though, and that's where it is.
No, and that's okay. That's okay. Because if I'm wanting to win now and I can't afford to hold Bryce on my bench and I just need that second quarterback that provides consistent QB2 value, which Bryce Young is not, right?
Right.
That's all you need. Then you get a guy like Josh Dobbs because you can deal Young for Dobbs plus. And again, you're not going to get a first. You might be able to get a second, though, depending on how high that manager is on Bryce Young. You might be able to get a second and maybe a bench piece, depending on how high that manager is on Bryce Young.
Right. Yeah, it's a weird spot to have him in. I hate that he's on the show sheet, but we've
that's why I do too.
Hopefully our theorizing helped you.
Talk about him.
Yep.
Yeah, right. Exactly. That's why I wanted to have it on here, because everybody's talking about Keaton Mitchell and Puka's downturn and all the other things in Dynasty. These four guys are people you probably need to be either moving on, or if you think there's some value on them, try to acquire. Now, I'm really interested to see what you have to say about this one, Matt. And it's Cowboys running back Tony Pollard. We were promised RB1, right?
Yeah.
We were promised all of this volume and all of these yards and all of this efficiency and all of these targets. And what we've gotten is nothing even remotely close to that from Pollard. Right now, he's RB25 in PPR. RB25. He was being drafted as an RB1, not the RB1, but as an RB1 tier in startups.
Absolutely. And now you're benching him for Jerome Ford, right?
Right.
Pretty easily to me.
Or Devin Singletary. Ooh, now that Devin Singletary's getting all the volume, but it's not that spicy. Look what Singletary did last week. He outplayed Tony Pollard, didn't he? And if he's going to get the volume, I would consider starting Singletary over Tony Pollard right now. He's going to be 27 next season. It's going to be his sixth season in the NFL. This is the first time he's been the lead back in an offense. It has not gone well. However, there are people like our friend Bo McBrayer, the king of spice, Hotbox Batch Hot Sauce. Seriously, go out and get it. Hotboxbatch.com. Not a sponsor yet. He loves Tony Pollard. And he's like refusing to change stance. Like, something's going to change. And I tweeted out, it was last week, where I was looking at Pollard last season versus this season. He had a really crappy start to last season too, but not this bad. Not RB25. That's horrible for where you were drafting him, or where you had him graded, what it cost for you to acquire him this offseason. If you didn't already have him rostered, you're not going to get a ton for him unless you can find that one manager in your league. But that said, is this a guy that you just want to get off of your roster at this point because his value's tanked so hard? Or do you believe that maybe there's a comeback for him? I mean, Dallas is throwing the ball more than they have in like 3 or 4 seasons because Pollard has been so inefficient.
He also finished out last year on your fantasy benches because he broke his leg in the fantasy playoffs. And this is his first few games back.
We're in week 11.
Yeah, but it really depends on the price, because Najee took a serious dive right now and almost flip-flopped with Jalen Warren probably in fantasy value. But I think Najee and Pollard, if you are getting them from people who are just done, that they've used these guys for 9 weeks and they're bye or through the bye and they just are over it. I'm happily sending any second for Pollard or Najee Harris, and I think you could get them for, if you sent that trade to everybody in every league, you would get some. You would get some accepted trades tonight, and I don't think that's a terrible trade, because Najee spent. I always think it takes a year to get past a foot injury, and he played all last year with a foot injury. He's he's really disappointed this year, even though we had almost no expectations for him. I don't think he's as bad as his market value says, and I think that Tony Pollard is probably the same tailspin coming back from injury, and he'll come back a little stronger. Go ahead.
Well, here's my issue with Tony Pollard, though. If you look at him over his career, he already has 135 carries. His career high was last season, where he had 193 in 16 games. He still has 8 games to go. He's only played 9 games. Dallas has had their bye. that pace doesn't feel sustainable to me with Pollard. He's just simply never been asked to do that. 193 carries last season, 130, 101, and 86 the previous 3 seasons before 2022. And his efficiency,
what is he pacing for? What is he pacing for right now?
Was it 529 yards over 9 games? So right around 1,000 again.
What about the carries and the catches? What's his usage?
I mean, dude, 35 targets, 29 catches, 190 yards.
And carries?
5 yards per attempt. He's got 135 carries, 529 yards.
So his usage is in line with when they still had Zeke. Is that right?
No, it's way up.
Is it?
He had 193 carries in 2022 with Zeke. He has 135 already this season. He has 7 more games, 8 more games to go. This was my concern with Pollard, is all of a sudden now he has gone from averaging 5 yards a carry the last 2 seasons, 5+ yards a carry the last 2 seasons, to 3.9 yards per carry this season. This is Joe Mixon territory and efficiency from Pollard. I think this offense was asking him to do too much. And now that they've moved towards a more run-heavy attack or more pass-heavy attack, Dak's been efficient. CeeDee Lamb's been phenomenal. Why wouldn't you? Plus, with this inefficiency, Tony Pollard's dead to me for the rest of the season, I think. I don't know that he has value. Then the question becomes, where does he play next season? Does he get a contract somewhere?
That's what's worth thinking about, is that a lot of what you just talked about how bad he's doing was situational. And situations change. Now, maybe this will spell out the rest of the year, and there won't be a retrograde for it to come back to regular efficiency with a lot less usage, which is what we'd rather see. But this is a good player in a bad situation, coming back from a huge injury that I was really surprised at how quickly he started playing again. But it's just good player, bad situation, and shaky future. But if you look back 2 years at James Conner, when he was free because he was a free agent and nobody knew what was going to happen, you've profited massively if you sent a second for James Conner, when he got cut from Pittsburgh. Now, Pollard hasn't even been cut from Dallas, and we're already giving him the cut James Conner price. So I'll take that price because he's the age that James Conner was, and that's the player that I would compare it to.
I mean, fair enough. Now, Christian Watson, wide receiver of the Green Bay Packers. I was told that he was a wide receiver 1, Matt. I was told that his talent couldn't fail and that he was going to be great for Jordan Love. And the dude was just going to score touchdown after touchdown after touchdown. What we've gotten this season, he's currently ranked wide receiver 24, Fantasy Pros Dynasty ECR. He's only had more than 7 targets 3 times this season. He's only got 1 receiving touchdown this season. He's seen fewer than 6 PPR points in the last 4 games. Like, at this point, he's touchdown dependent. People still believe this is going to turn around. There's still kind of a sell high-ish sort of window on Christian Watson for believers in Dynasty. You're not going to get a penny for him in redraft. Don't even try. It's not even worth it. I'm concerned that they're going to try to make Jordan Love fetch.
You think he's coming back next year?
I kind of feel like the organization wants to say, no, we need to give him another year. And if that happens,
I'll tell you this.
But here's the real question: does Christian Watson get better with a new quarterback?
I'll tell you.
Or is this was Christian Watson elevated by a Hall of Fame quarterback who liked him in the red zone?
I would sell Christian Watson for Gabe Davis in a second, and if you can get that, take it and run, because you'll take the points. Sure, the talent's there, but if you're talking about the value of the talent that's unseen at the expense of the points now, look at every other player on his team. He might be the most talented. That might be true. He's getting the least production.
Right.
He's worth the most in the trade market. And when all those things happen, you got to pivot. And especially if you're talking about, if you think Jordan Love is the long-term answer, I've been trying to get a first for Jordan Love pretty much everywhere I have him, because everywhere I have him, he's like my 3rd or 4th QB, because he was worth a third a year or a year ago, 2 years ago.
Right.
You get Jordan Love for third pretty easily everywhere. So I've got him as my third and fourth QB in a bunch of leagues. I can't get a first for him. And at this point, he's getting 21 points a game in 6-point passing. That's fine to ride out. It's just, it kind of sucks because you're not going to get the trade value from him that you would get the production from him. He's just a younger, sexier Josh Dobbs, I guess, in the same division. Right?
Yeah, sure.
But that being the case, I've got a team where I noticed that I had a few Green Bay Packers, and I was like, I don't have any Green Bay Packers anywhere. Let's just make a joke out of it and get all the Green Bay Packers on this one team. So now I've got Jordan Love, Aaron Jones. I bought at market, which I think is cheap if he comes back to form. AJ Dillon, Jaden Reed, Romeo Dobbs, Luke Musgrave. I have all of them except for Christian Watson because he's the only one that's not worth it if you're just doing it as a bit. He's the only one you got to pay for real. You know what I mean? And all the rest of them are better values. And if you think if you think Jordan Love is not coming back because he's terrible, then all of those other pieces that you're buying for cheap for their production right now are going to get you way more production next year if you think they're going to upgrade. And if they don't upgrade, then balance out all those other players that you're buying by getting Jordan Love also, because all he's going to do is get better over time. And 21 points a game as a rookie, because I'll count him as a rookie, 21 points a game is fine. And if they're going to do like you say and keep him for a whole another year, it's just a fun place to mine for value right now. But Christian Watson is not it. Christian Watson should be the bomb that you throw in the mine that clears out all the other stuff, and then you go take in all the value pieces.
Okay, so I think
strong organization, strong franchise, especially historically. There's a lot to make out of that. But it's not Christian Watson. It's not Christian Watson.
It's not Christian Watson, but he still has enough value that he's worth selling right now in Dynasty. So if you've got Christian Watson on your roster, we're telling you, get rid of him. Make sure you sell him. Kyle Pitts.
This is the one player that you had on the show sheet. This is my one buy. Sorry, go ahead on Kyle Pitts. Sorry.
Yeah.
I cut you off.
No. We've got a question in the chat here I want to get to. So here for the means, he's got a question here. I thought maybe we were missing part of this. So if you could throw this in the chat here while we are talking here about Kyle Pitts, is that too steep for Higgins? I don't see any other part of this question, buddy. So just tell us what the steepness for Higgins is, and we'll tell you if you are getting a deal or if it is too steep.
I've got one for you, Nate. I've got a Higgins Addison dilemma. Where do you stand on that?
Addison.
Do you? For this year or for Dynasty? Or both? Or neither?
Both.
Addison, huh? Straight up?
Look, yes, because Kevin O'Connell's not going anywhere. Look what he's doing with this team now that they've got Josh Dobbs. Like, they've turned their season around. O'Connell wants to feature both receivers. He wants Justin Jefferson featured. He wants Jordan Addison featured. That was the whole point. This is a team that at one point in the season was throwing on 70+% of their plays, man. Remember, there was a game they had 8 total runs. 8.
That's a Kevin O'Connell signature. That's a 3-wide set.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So in this, like right now in this offense with Justin Jefferson and KJ Osborne out, well, Osborne will be back this week, but all of a sudden you're going like to their 4th, 5th, and 6th wide receivers that still have value. Brandon Powell has value.
Redraft, you should say Addison is the one, right?
Yes,
there's a few kinks that I want to throw into that. Since Josh Dobbs got there, TJ Hawkinson has gotten like 50% of the first look reads, and his performance has been insane. And Addison is kind of an afterthought in the last 2 games. Now, I think he's like wide receiver 10 on the year, but a lot of those came with Kirk Cousins. And if Dobbs is going to keep first reading Hawkinson and just pitching to him and getting him 30 points a game, is now the time to buy Addison? Or do we say, it's gonna revert? It's a 1 or 2 game stretch. It doesn't even matter. Addison's still the guy. And
I assume it's going to revert.
With that being said, what if Justin Jefferson comes back? How much of a part of that offense is Addison even this year? So I've talked to a bunch of people that were split on them, Addison this year, T. Higgins next year. And that might be because, well, like, who's Addison going to be catching balls from next year? Is it going to be an upgrade from Dobbs? Like, it's just all kinds of weird.
Is there such a
factors you
thing
have
as
to
an
put in.
upgrade from Dobbs?
That's what I'm saying. It's almost like
who
a
realistically
2022 Lockett with 2022 Geno was a code breaker. We don't know how Dobbs is going to do up there. We don't know how Addison's going to do when Justin Jefferson comes back. We don't know who their quarterback's going to be next year.
But
Higgins is really good.
Dude, I'm still taking Addison over Higgins. Higgins is living off of a few games in 2021.
Oh, and every so often
they were great games, and every so often he does pop.
He'll be, and then last year and this year, he'll be injured a lot of the time. A few of the games when he starts, he just lays goose eggs because they're tricking us. That's really frustrating as a Higgins manager. And I'm looking at trading one of them for an Addison because I've got 4 Higgins and 2 Addison, and evening it out at the same price might I like equilibriums. I like using value across leagues and just creating equilibriums with players that I like and players that I think are worth, name value versus production value versus future value. And I like what you're saying. I don't know. I just thought I wanted to bring it up to somebody. And
no, I get it. This is a great place to do it. Now, buying Kyle Pitts. Arthur Smith, though, and I'm with you because we know Kyle Pitts is talented. We've seen him do it in the NFL. His rookie season, he was tight end 8, right? Tight end 8. Let me look at that here real quick. Tight end 6, 110 targets. Last season, he saw 59 targets. This season, 58 targets through 10 games, which is all he had last season. So he's at about the same pace. We know the talent's there. Is Arthur Smith ever going to freaking use him, or is this Jonnu Smith's offense now? Because Jonnu Smith is currently tight end 14, while Pitts is tight end 17. It's frustrating, especially for those of us who bought in 2021. Like, this is Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts is the man. I took him first overall in a rookie draft, tight end premium, which paid off that season. Hasn't since.
You could have sold him for 3 firsts after that season. I remember.
Yeah. What are you? So you have hope.
I do have hope.
You have hope. You have hope. Okay. Well, please tell me. I want to hear this because I need to hear this. I need to have some hope.
Good players, good talent, bad situation is Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson. It is exactly the purchase that you should be looking to make in Dynasty, especially if you don't care about this year. The big problem that I've seen with this is that the entire tight end market has not really saturated, but there's some good young ones out there to the point where Jake Ferguson on the Cowboys is probably outscoring Kyle Pitts.
Yes, he is.
Luke Musgrave is probably accidentally outscoring Kyle Pitts. There's a bunch of these characters. Trey McBride is probably worth more. But God, what a weird thing to say after the last, since forever. It's just such a weird flip in the market and the production. And I wonder what you could get for Kyle Pitts. Now, I'll tell you this. Since people have been figuring out they need to blow it up and start reworking their rosters, I've seen Mark Andrews really undersold to the point where I found 3 different leagues where he was sold for like a first plus something like basically a third for Mark Andrews in 3 different leagues. And I think that's a nice move that you want to make if you want to get rid of Kyle Pitts because you're like winning and you're like, I can't wait for this. Because of the way that I've seen some tankers way undersell, in my opinion, Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews just had a bad week, so this is probably a good time. And you could go and say, I'm contending. Kyle Pitts is not starting. I want a starter. Give me Mark Andrews straight up. I bet you get that done. And that's just a move that would keep both teams happy, I think.
Yeah. I like it. Well, okay. You've given me some hope. And then I looked at his contract too. He doesn't have a 5th-year option.
Why is that? He was a first-round pick. What wasn't he 4th overall?
It's 4-year contract.
Huh.
His 4th overall, yes.
With an
4-year
option?
contract. I do not see an option. I don't see an option listed.
Huh. Who knows?
32 million fully guaranteed for him. Like, good for him. Yeah,
Wow.
no, he's done after the 2024 season. So there's some hope there. Maybe he goes to a team that'll use him.
He's in the worst situation possible. His only way to go with his talent is up. Right. Yeah. That's it. So, and as we've made into a heuristic in this show, like, buy the talent, not the situation. Buy the talent, sell the situation, right?
100%. Guys, buy our talent. And by buying our talent, I mean, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the Razzball channel here on YouTube. Check out razzball.com. We've got dynasty rankings. We've got a trade calculator. We've got all sorts of fun articles, including an article about this here show. If you are listening to the audio version, make sure that you follow us on your favorite podcast platform feed. We are here every week, all year long, to talk about Dynasty Fantasy Football, which we personally think is the best brand of football. Guys, we'll see you next week.